Hey out there, mad scientists, welcome back to the lab and welcome to Module 7. Today we're going to be discussing multiplication and growth management. Now what does that mean? That means it is time to start introducing some growth hormones, some plant growth hormones and regulators into your media mix in order to expand your collection and your explant, right? So what we're going to deal with today is making the media. You're going to watch step by step how to do this. It is a fairly quick process. It shouldn't take you very long at all to do this. You'll watch me and the exact way that I do it. And I do it almost the same every single time. There's a few different differences depending on the genus and species that I'm working on, but for the most part, this is my preferred recipe, which is listed in the material. If you'll look over at your material that I put out for Module 7, you will see my recipe. It's a very simplistic recipe, but it works very well. Once we're done, we're going to come back. We're going to take a look at some of the specimen that I've had in the works for the past several months, and you'll see exactly what you could expect in the weeks and months to come. So let's flip over the direction and see how this is made. Very first ingredient we are going to add is going to be our distilled water, and we whistle. There we are, and that gives us room to add all of our dry ingredients before we top it off. I'm going to put a magnetic stir bar in the bottom here. Go ahead and turn that on. We'll get it going. Go ahead and mix our ingredients. We're going to turn our scale on, get it to zero out. There we are. We push tare. And we're going to start with our sucrose. There you go. This is just general sugar. And we're going to start off with between 20 and 30 grams. Now the reason I like to start with, you know what, let me use the little spatula to get that out of there. The reason I like to start with the sucrose first is because it is the hardest to dissolve. So if we get that dissolving first, we end up with less crystallization as we go. Give one more little scoop for good measure. There we are. That's 26.7 grams. I'll set that down and that'll work for us. Like I said, somewhere between 20 and 30 grams. It's really not that important. You need somewhere between 20 and 30 just to give the plant enough nutrient balance while it's trying to get going. Next is our Murashigian Scooge, MS. 4.5 grams, and that's almost 4 grams there. That's 5 grams. Let's get a little bit out of there. There we go, 4.53. Take it. I'm going to take just a touch out. And it's okay if you're a little bit less. Here we are. A little bit less than more, because this is just your vitamins and nutrients. And your specimen won't be in the media that long. You're probably not going to consume all of the nutrients there. Next, we're going to add some activated charcoal. And I like to add about 1 gram per liter. It doesn't take much. There you go. Get that mixing in. And finally, we'll put in our agar, which is right around 7 grams per liter. There we are. There's 7 grams. Set that right over here. I'll turn that up a little bit to get it to mix well. There we are. Those are our dry ingredients. We just want to make sure we're getting a good mix there. Letting it do its thing. Rinse my spatula off a little bit. Get that powder down in there. A lot of it wanted to float on the top. So we're going to set it right here to the side. Now it is time to add our PGRs. And we're going to start off with IB and BAP. Start with my micro pipette. Remember, we do use a separate micro pipette for each one. And on the benzylamino purine, we're going to add 1 milliliter at a time. So I'm going to set this up. 1,000 microliters is a milliliter. And there's 1. I'm going to add 3 milliliters to this. And that's the end of my BAP. I'm going to have to make some more. We'll set that down. Get rid of that tip. Let's get another tip. And we're going to dial this down. We're going to dial it down to 500 microliters, which is a half a milliliter. There we are. We're at half a milliliter now for our IBA. And this is, there we are. I'm going to set those off to the side. Hang that back on the rack. I'll put those 2 pipette tips in the autoclave later. Now we're going to top the solution off. to our 1,000 milliliter mark, which is 1 liter. There we are, we're at exactly 1 liter. And we are going to test the pH. I like to put it in some distilled water first to prime it a little bit, let it get to where it's going. Rinse off any old residue that it had from the last time we used it that may have dried on. See, it's still moving. As you can see, the numbers are still kind of moving around a little bit. We'll let it kind of even out, and it's sitting almost at a perfect 8, dropping slowly. So I guess it's getting close to being ready. All right, let's see what we've got here. Let's test it and find out. Looks like we are sitting at well, it is dropping. We're at a 5.96 and dropping. Who knows? We might be almost perfect. We need to be between 5.6 and 5.8 preferably. Right now we're sitting at, looks like, well, it's still dropping, but we're at 5.84. Let's let it continue to adjust real quick, because right now we're at 5.81, 5.8, 5.79. It looks like it's almost, now it's teetering between 5.78 and 7.9. Just right. We're exactly in the range, right at the upper range, but we are right there. Let me go ahead and rinse off my mix. I don't want any of that charcoal getting left on there. There we go. Let that sit in its little bath for a moment. So we have successfully mixed our media. Now it's just a matter of dispersing it into our vessels. So let me go grab that and we'll be right back with you. Now I like to fill 4 at a time so that I can put the lids on them and start the stirrer up again, just to ensure that I don't have a problem with the agar going to the bottom. This allows us to keep it mixed up the entire time and have a good mixture every time. There we are, we've got a dozen jars here. So 1 liter makes a dozen jars filled up about 3/4 to an inch full in the jar, as you can see. So it gives you right at 12 jars. And once you put your plant into this mixture, it'll be able to stay here for several months before having to be changed. Now you should be changing your media every 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. However, sometimes we get behind in the lab, and it's nice to have a little extra nutrient in there. All right, folks, so now you have seen the process of mixing the media. Now it's time to cook the media. And I'll be doing that right here in the lab, right on this desk with a pressure cooker and a single burner. That way I don't have to haul it across rooms or across the house or anything like that. And this does work very well. So let's load the cooker and I'll come right back to you. This particular pressure cooker only fits 9 of the jars, so it doesn't quite fit all 12. But I've got water up to the top of the plate that it sits on, which is about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of water inside the cooker. And all I'm going to do is put the lid on it and turn it on. As you can see, the pressure cooker is now sealed and we have it on high all the way. It will remain on high the entire time. What we will do is once it starts to spout steam from the release valve here, what we'll do is we'll end up putting the weight. Now this is a 15-pound weight that we'll put right on top, just like so. And once it builds up pressure on the inside, it'll go to rocking like this. And I'll show you that as it comes up. But we will wait for it to build up the steam and get up to the heat before we start adding the pressure. It just goes a little faster if you do that. Once it does reach 15 pounds per square inch, which is what this, once it starts rocking like that, we'll start the timer right at 20 minutes. As you can see here, our pressure valve has popped up, letting us know that it is building up pressure. It began to steam from the valve, so we put the 15-pound weight right on top, and we're just waiting for it to build up to 15 pounds of pressure on the inside of this pressure cooker, and it will begin to rock in. And there she goes, folks. As you can see, she's starting to dance. This is exactly what happens once it reaches the 15 PSI inside your cooker. Your little rocker will begin to rockin', doing her little hula dance, as I like to call it. Doesn't she look like a little hula dancer? Now we set the timer for 20 minutes. That's it. Okay, so what can you expect to see? Here is a jar of Alocasia Jacqueline, and it started off as a single plantlet put in here about 2 months ago. And now, as you can see, there are multiple plantlets inside here. It is ready to be subcultured. Look at all the different shoots it's got. And look at the base. Let's just look at the base of this material and see how many, well, that's kind of hard to see. Let me set that down. There you go. It's got a ton of growth on the base where they're just different portions of the plant that just kept multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. And you can see how many shoots are inside this now. Let's go to a larger sample of it. Now this is done from the same culture. We cultured these back in February, I believe. And some of the taller, older leaves have wilted a bit, but they've been in here this entire time. And you can see the amount of growth that it's put off. There's just multiple plantlets in this jar. And it is now time, let me go to a clearer section of the jar. It is now time to subculture this again and put it into further multiplication. There you have it. Now, if you're wondering about callus material, let's look at this callus material. Look at that beautiful callus there. This is just a mass of undifferentiated cells, and we are ready to cut that up into multiple pieces and put it into different jars to get that to grow. And this is Alocasia aslanii. Now let's take a look at some of the, let's see what we've got here. Let's see, this is Philodendron giganteum. Monstera deliciosa giant form. And you can see the multiple shoots that it is putting off. There it is. It's been in there for about a month. Here's another one, and you can see all the little plantlets that it's putting off. This one's been in there for about 2 months. It is time to subculture and move to another jar. Okay, so that is what you should be looking at in a very short amount of time as far as multiplication goes. And there you have it, folks. That concludes module number 7. Multiplication and growth management. Hopefully that has been a great example of how to mix your media, how to add your plant growth regulators and hormones, as well as show you what to expect within a few weeks to a month of growth in your media. Now, if you don't see anything at all, that's much better than seeing contamination. And just let it sit a little while. Make sure that you're giving your plants 16 to 18 hours of bright indirect light or lights from a grow light. As you see, mine are positioned right in front of a window, and that is an eastern facing window, and then it has lights from the room as well. But I have no overhead lights at all, and they seem to grow very well just in the conditions of the home. So that's what you can expect. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next module.